The idea of Juan Gabriel at Bellas Artes was born thanks to a group of palace employees who saw Juanga at a palenque. Among them was la güerita de difusión, also known as María Pozo, a woman devoted to art and culture, but who, until that palenque night, had no idea about Juanga's magic. Maria took it upon herself to contact and sometimes convince all the key players to bring madness to the White Palace. And just a few weeks after that palenque, with a few very intense days of production, Juanga and the orchestra were ready. There were less than 24 hours left before the first of his 4 concerts in May 1990. But like in the best movies, there was one final obstacle to overcome, because it's one thing to convince the President of the Republic and a very different one to go up against the union workers at Bellas Artes.
There was a strong threat of a strike by the technical staff at Bellas Artes.
Workers who receive far less pay and recognition than they deserve. Except on the day of Juan Gabriel's rehearsal. Because that day, Juanga made sure to give them what they deserved, in the best and most danceable sense of the word.
Había muchas personas.
A lot of people snuck into the seats, and Juan Gabriel said, "Do we have an audience now?" So everyone replied, "Yes." I'm talking about Bellas Artes' workers, secretaries, cleaning staff, department heads. Juanga invited them to the rehearsal, and everyone came to see because there was so much going on. Lights, microphones, a huge production.
Juan Gabriel stepped in and asked Bellas Artes and his team to invite the parents, siblings, aunties, the families of Bellas Artes workers, and he gave them a full show during the rehearsal. So he won over the union, and just like that, the strike threat disappeared.
Fue muy impresionante,
It
Juan.
was really impressive. Juan Gabriel performed the full concert, nearly 4 hours, singing his heart out, with so much love and care for the audience. He sang, he danced, as if it had been the President of the Republic watching. It was amazing.
Para los trabajadores
For the Bellas Artes workers, who I can tell you were 99.9% Juan Gabriel fans, well, it was impossible not to get goosebumps. Hearing Juan Gabriel con la Sinfónica and the choir from El Palacio de Bellas Artes was a religious experience. It gave you goosebumps.
In fact, I remember that rehearsal. I think it was better than some of the actual performances.
Just hours before showing the rest of the world the magic he had prepared, Juanga gave the palace workers a show that recognized them as his co-conspirators in this mischief. It doesn't matter if they're certified by conservative purists or beloved for filling palenques. What matters is the bond the artist forms with other human beings. How their presence, their art, connects us all.
Juan Gabriel, through his music, had something to say to everyone. To those with broken hearts, to those falling in love, to those with no money, to those who wanted to sing to their mothers, to everyone.
Ese es un artista.
That's what makes an artist. Someone who can have a social impact. Someone who doesn't care whether they're at the top or at the bottom. He was a revelation for me. The artist, the quality, the talent. What I saw in those first rehearsals before the first concert was something exceptional.
From the rehearsals, I already knew. This is going down in history. And it did.
I'm Andres Vargas, and on behalf of a great production team, many fans of Juan Gabriel at Bellas Artes, and a few government workers, welcome to an original Sonoro podcast. No me provoquen. Breaking the Palace. Chapter 4. Siempre estoy pensando en el ayer. Oh, I believe in yesterday. With everything confirmed and rehearsed, you would expect Maria and the production team to start relaxing and celebrating their hard work.
You know, the days leading up to it were a nightmare for everyone. The phone calls. Please, get me some tickets for the love of God. Everyone wanted to witness history, something unprecedented. Everyone.
The first of 4 nights, Juanga's debut at Bellas Artes, will be the most special show of all.
Decidimos que no.
We decided there would be no special guests, and it didn't matter how famous or important they were, they had to buy their tickets.
And at the box office in 1990, everything was paid in cash.
Tenía yo
I was like Santa Claus. I had a bag full of cash.
Some clarifications. Santa Claus doesn't carry a bag of cash. Maria's bag was for production. And the truth is, there were some special guests, like Carlos Monsiváis.
lo invitamos al primer.
We invited him to the first concert, and he was delighted. I think he even came to two.
There were also people who snuck in, who clearly hadn't waited in line for tickets.
Todos los intelectuales.
All the intellectuals who weren't critical of him were at the concerts, and all the politicians of the time, of course.
The first show at El Palacio will be for an audience of a different class. The upper class, the political, the intellectual. Juan Gabriel and Maestro Patrón de Rueda had to channel the spirit of the palenque in front of a crowd that might not react with the same passion as what politicians call the masses. This show was a serious thing. Maybe too serious.
Él nunca estaba nervioso.
He was never nervous. I would tell him I was nervous, and he'd reply with a joke or something. He always had that thing. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have fun. I was the nervous one, not him. Although he must have been a little nervous because Bellas Artes can be intimidating.
Bellas
Bellas Artes is used to putting on grand productions. In opera, there's constant movement of characters, a live orchestra, a live choir, and the set changes for every scene and every act.
But Juan's production had its own challenges.
Aquí no teníamos escenografía.
We didn't have scenography for Juanga's, however the stage was completely full. We had the entire symphonic orchestra, plus the full choir of the palace, plus the artist, Juan Gabriel, and at one point the mariachi group that he requested for the rancheras songs.
Fortunately, the Bellas Artes stage was big enough to fit both the orchestra and the mariachi. But behind the scenes, there was a space issue.
En el Palacio de Bellas Artes.
There was only one main dressing room in the backstage. We gave that one to Juan Gabriel. So when Enrique Patron said to me, "Hey, you're not going to take away my dressing room, are you?" I thought, my God, but there's only one main dressing room. What could I do? I can't build a new dressing room in the middle of Bellas Artes. So I welcomed him with flowers. I filled a secondary dressing room from floor to ceiling with flowers for Enrique Patron.
And well deserved, because he wasn't just the guest conductor for the shows, as the program listed him. According to Maestro Alejandro Reyes, a musician in the symphonic orchestra, Patrón de Rueda was the best choice to lead the performance with Juanga.
There's a specialty in music, which is accompanying singers. It's not easy being a pianist who accompanies singers or being a conductor who accompanies singers. And I think one of the best batons in that regard is Maestro Enrique Patron de Rueda. It's impressive. All musicians say that singers are very temperamental because they can change things at the last second. And the conductor has to know, even understand the way singers breathe, so that when a singer is going to finish something, we all land together. That's what Juan Gabriel did, and that's what Maestro Enrique Patron accomplished.
Yo tuve que estar pendiente y además.
I had to be alert and learn the cues he used when he was about to move from one song to another so I could follow. If you watch the video, I look like the girl from The Exorcist. It's true. At the time, it was terrifying. It was all new to me. But I had a great time. I really enjoyed it.
Patrón de Rueda was definitely the ideal leader to take the orchestra into uncharted territory. Una pachanga.
Les dije, esto es una.
I told them, this is a party. We have to enjoy it. And it's going to be filmed, and that needs to come across. So yes, we all caught his energy and his music and his personality.
Juan Gabriel,
Juan Gabriel was vegetarian, vegan actually, and very strict about it. So in his dressing room, he requested all kinds of fruit and water. And during the concert, he actually would lose weight. I don't know if 10 kilos, but a lot, just from sweating. Because, as he said, he didn't stop. There wasn't even an intermission. It was 3.5 to 4 hours straight. He kept drinking and drinking water. He had a silver goblet he placed on a table and drank water from it. Only water and fruit.
I had to go pick him up from his dressing room. That was part of the ritual.
Before the first show began, Juan Gabriel gathered with the orchestra musicians backstage.
Nos dijo,
He thanked us all. He applauded us, and we applauded him. We applauded each other.
And then he would wait at the door for the overture to finish so he could go in.
All the key players were in place to begin the concert, all except María.
tenía mi lugar.
I had my seat, my assigned spot. Unfortunately, I could never sit down because I was running around. All I remember is running like there was no tomorrow. Go up here, run over there, go there, here, there.
María was still solving problems up until the last minute.
Todos los imponderables.
All the unpredictable things that happen when you're doing something that's never been done before. Someone shows up without a ticket. Someone wants to get in. Silly things like that. But also things like a musician feeling unwell, and so on.
cuando termina la obertura.
When the overture ended, the audience began to applaud. And at that moment, Juan Gabriel came on stage, and the place exploded.
As soon as he stepped on stage, there was magic.
Una emoción.
The emotion. No. Unbelievable. Incredible. I think I can compare it to the emotion I felt when I had my children. That's what it was like. People were going crazy. My big concern was that someone would fall from the upper balconies. If you know Bellas Artes, you know the third balcony is incredibly steep.
The White Palace wasn't used to, and apparently wasn't built for, that level of passion and madness.
La bolsa de dinero no me iba.
That cash I had wasn't going to be nearly enough to cover injuries. I would look at my boss's stern face, then look at the musicians who completely lost all composure, by which I mean the formal seriousness of a symphonic concert, including the musicians who I told you were initially stern, and the choir members, the choir from El Palacio de Bellas Artes, who were also initially stern. By the end, they were completely unhinged, and I mean unhinged.
Es que era imposible.
You couldn't help but get swept up. We all cried, we all sang, we all laughed. We went through every emotion a person can feel, and we all danced. We all got excited, especially with the song
Hasta que te conocí. Y la gente se paraba y bailaba.
People danced and screamed. It was very impressive. Suddenly, it transformed from very sad music, a very sad song, into something wild.
Nadie pudo sustraer.
No one could resist that collective madness.
No nos había tocado a muchos.
Many of us had never seen people get up to dance in Bellas Artes, but it was so emotional to see that we were all dancing. The audience, the conductor, Juan Gabriel, and I looked at my colleagues, and we were all the same. That's an incredible kind of flow. You don't get that with just any artist. It was overflowing passion.
Yo creo que eso es irrepetible.
I think that magic of those nights is unrepeatable. And he was in his prime. His voice was in full form.
Sí creo que ese fue su.
I really believe that was his peak. After that, he never again achieved that disruption, that magic.
Cada vez que lo veo en la televisión.
Every time I see it on TV, I feel proud. I think, wow, what an incredible thing we created. What a marvelous thing.
Maestro Patrón de Rueda remained in contact with Juan Gabriel for many years after that Bellas Artes debut.
Una vez me dijo, maestro,
He used to tell me, Maestro, what you and I did made history. It's the best thing I ever did in my career. He told me that many times.
Han pasado muchos años y
Many years have passed, and I'm still very happy to have had the chance to be part of that concert. I'm happy and grateful to life.
Maestro Alejandro Reyes had a much briefer encounter with El Divo de Juárez, but no less moving or transformative.
yo tuve la suerte de platicar.
I was lucky enough to speak with him, greet him, and say, Maestro. And he replied immediately, I'm not a maestro. That's the first thing he said. I told him, I don't know what else to call you. I can only say thank you. And I hugged him. That's how it was.
Maestro Alejandro got emotional, even to tears, when telling us about his experience with Juanga. He also gave us the perfect testimony to describe Juanga's triumph over the supposed purity of art.
A muchos nos cambió.
For many of us, it changed the way we think about popular music. About an artist so great in the realm of popular music, and in the true sense of the word popular. I don't say that with disdain. Now, for me, Juan Gabriel deserves the highest respect as one of the greats. Juan Gabriel is one of the truly great artists. Everyone can hum Beethoven's Fifth. There's no one in the world who can't. And in Mexico, we can all sing Hasta que te conocí.
¿Se logra o lo logra?
The audience's devotion and the connection between Juan Gabriel and the crowd, that was something he could achieve just as easily in a palenque as he did at Bellas Artes. I have to tell you, at the palenque, the first time I went, I was dressed like a farm girl from Milwaukee. It was freezing. I had on a jacket and a scarf, and I threw the scarf. I was one of the people who went totally wild.
María Esther Pozo, la güerita de difusión, accomplished her mission and brought the madness of the palenque to the grandest stage in the country. But that was only the first night. The Noa Noa hadn't even started yet.
A mí personalmente no me gusta.
Personally, I'm not a big fan of Noa Noa, but when we got to that moment, the crowd and the whole orchestra, we had become one. There was a woman in the presidential box who danced to every single song. She sang every single one, and I imagine she cried just like the rest of the audience. She became just another member of the audience.
The truth is, María was the only person involved in the show's production who could never really let loose during the concerts.
Mira, no pude relajarme.
Look, I couldn't relax because we had 4 concerts in a row. This shot of adrenaline I'd been running on for months had its culmination in those 4 concerts, so I had to finish all 4 before I could relax.
A mí me gustó mucho.
I really liked the first and the last of the 4 concerts. The second and third were amazing too, but the first, maybe because of the emotion, and the last, because it was our farewell.
Everyone has their favorite night or memory, but we can't skip the Amor Eterno of the second night. Juan Gabriel's second concert at Bellas Artes took place on May 10th, Mother's Day.
Entonces imagínate.
So imagine the gift to Mexican moms when he sang Amor Eterno. I thought people were going to faint. I don't know why we didn't hire emergency medical services.
Cuando se cantaba,
When he sang the song he wrote for his dear mother, Amor Eterno, everyone cried. Everyone was crying.
On and off stage.
era muy impresionante ver.
It was amazing to see. There was a colleague who sadly has passed away who was there in the orchestra. She was the first person I saw crying during that song. Then I looked around, and there was another colleague who also has passed. My friend Thelma, she cried a lot. And Lupita Leon, another violinist, was crying so much she had to lower her instrument because she couldn't contain herself.
We want to dedicate this production with great love and respect. More than a production, it's a tribute to the people who made one of the greatest concerts in history possible. Truly, with heartfelt affection and respect, to all the workers of Bellas Artes, musicians, maestros, writers, especially to those who are now a little farther away from us. Thank you. After one of the rehearsals, Juan Gabriel invited María and all the musicians to eat at a small place near Bellas Artes. From the beginning, María had been in constant contact with Juanga's team, but she had actually spent very little time with him. Our protagonist couldn't live without a grand gesture from El Divo de Juárez.
En el mantel.
On the tablecloth we were eating on, we were at the same table. He pulled out a pen and wrote to me, "I will never be able to thank you enough for what you did for me, Juan Gabriel."
María treasured the tablecloth and a couple of photographs from that lunch as memories of her stubbornness transformed into a historic presentation.
Hay una anécdota chistosa.
There's a funny story. Someone who helped me around the house one day saw the tablecloth stored in a closet and decided to wash it. Luckily, Juan Gabriel's message, "I will never be able to thank you enough for what you did for me," was still there.
The tablecloth survived a wash cycle, but sadly, it was eventually lost in the twists and turns of life.
Tuve una desgracia.
I had a personal misfortune because I moved to Mérida, and the moving company with all my things disappeared. In other words, the movers stole everything from me. The thieves probably saw a tablecloth. Imagine, a painted tablecloth scribbled on. They must have tossed it out. But for me, it was an important keepsake. It was really hard for me to get over losing everything, because I lost everything. I was left with just a small suitcase, a pair of shorts, some flip-flops, and a couple of t-shirts. It was a lesson in detachment. I like Buddhism, and I would often say, what I really want is not to own so many things. Well, be careful what you wish for. You know how Buddhism teaches detachment? Well, that was an extreme lesson in detachment. Now I've made peace with having lost everything.
In addition to that lesson, María's life after Bellas Artes also reflects a kind of Buddhist principle that we shall all apply more often. The best part of the party is knowing when to leave.
En lo personal,
For me, yes, it was one of the most exciting, hilarious, terrifying, and satisfying events of my career, of my professional life. It was something truly incredible. And it was hard for me to get back into the rhythm of my regular work, my usual activities promoting culture and events. I remember that the next thing I worked on was the cancellation of a commemorative stamp for the 100th anniversary of the founder of the Institute of Aesthetic Research. And I wanted to cry because of the lack of adrenaline. But, well, I didn't change career paths. I didn't go into show business. I never considered it. I don't think I could live in that state of anxiety with excitement and joy. It was too much to bear every day. So, yeah, it was amazing. But that was it.
It's important to know our limits. María closed her cycle at Bellas Artes with great wisdom, and although she went on to produce more concerts and exhibitions, those 4 nights in May 1990 were transcendent.
yo sí creo que
I truly believe Juan Gabriel's concerts at Bellas Artes in 1990 created an opening in the way people look at popular culture.
The doors remained open, but no one has brought another popular artist of Juan Gabriel's caliber to the Palacio.
No ha habido otro artista.
There hasn't been another popular artist to sing at Bellas Artes, and I think that's a tragedy. They didn't know how, they didn't get it, and they didn't know how to repeat it. No one has dared to take that risk.
Not like the one María Esther Pozo did.
Pienso que puede pasar con...
I think it can happen with any other artist, but it will be difficult with an artist who has made so many songs and who sings them all, who is the author of everything, who controls everything. I think it's unlikely there could be anything like that. Juan Gabriel was unique.
nunca más he visto o vi.
Never again. Seriously. No, it's not because I participated, but I've never seen or witnessed a Juan Gabriel event that had the same vibe as those events. That fantastic production he brought to the Palacio de Bellas Artes was never repeated.
Even though Juan Gabriel returned to the palace years later, anyone you ask will tell you that the concert, the one that's now part of the legend he built, happened over those 4 nights in May 1990. It was the highest point of Juan Gabriel's career. And all of it happened thanks to Maria's stubbornness, a government official who, one night at a palenque, dreamed of hearing that song, the one that lives rent-free in my mind, at the Palace of Fine Arts. Thank you for joining me on this journey through one of the most beautiful acts of cultural rebellion in Mexican history. When I first started digging into this story, I thought I was just trying to understand how one of my favorite concerts came to be. But what I found was something much bigger. What María Pozo accomplished wasn't just bringing Juan Gabriel to el Palacio de Bellas Artes. It was tearing down the walls that tell us some art is worthy and some isn't. That some voices belong in marble halls, while others should stay in the palenques. Her stubbornness, her necedad, showed us something we all need to remember. The best art, the most transcendent moments, happen when we refuse to accept those artificial boundaries. When we let a campesino's son from Juárez fill a white palace with the kind of joy that makes everyone, from symphony musicians to government workers to presidents' wives, lose their composure and just dance. The world is full of incredible beauty that doesn't fit into neat little boxes. There's magic in cumbia and chamber music, in street food and fine dining, in the stories told by your abuela and the ones hanging in museums. When we open ourselves to all of it, when we celebrate the full spectrum of human creativity, we become part of something bigger than ourselves. We become part of that collective madness that Juanga created. That moment when differences disappear, and we're all just human beings, moved by something beautiful. So keep your ears open, keep your heart open, and never let anyone tell you that your joy isn't sophisticated enough for their palace. Because the truth is, every palace becomes more beautiful when it's filled with people who aren't afraid to feel everything. My name is Andres Vargas, and on behalf of a great production team, thank you for letting us share the story of how Juan Gabriel made it to Bellas Artes. No Me Provoquen, Breaking the Palace, an original podcast by Sonoro.